Okay, so you know what I realized I don't do enough on this channel? Cover weapons. I feel like I'm always covering only Warframes, and it is because it gets more views and primarily it's more fun for me. I think Warframes is the thing that mainly entices me into this game, but the weapons are good and we got plenty to choose from, and the game is way more fun when you don't just focus on using everything that's meta. So today I'm going to provide you with 10 weapons that I find really fun, that are also really effective and worth trying if you want to have a little switch up. Starting with number 10, I love the Ghoul Saw, man. This was such a hyped up weapon for so long, this massive borderline chainsaw buzzsaw weapon. It came with the Ghoul update, and I can't lie, I mainly use this with Valkyria, but on its own, it is decent. The best ways to make this work without someone like Valkyria is to get it to max combo count, maybe use Naramon. Using Blast and a grouping tool can often help, but good old viral melee influence does work because this is a heavy slash focused weapon. And to me, I really like using the regular hold forward combo because it procs a lot of status, and seeing the mini blast explosions go off left, right, center is really fun. Listen, my main soft spot is for this weapon with Valkyria, primarily because Warcry, giving it that bonus attack speed, is a perfect synergy. You could also use this with Volt, maybe Harrow, anyone that's going to boost your melee attack speed. But Valkyria, of course, can now debuff enemies for more melee damage, and she has built-in grouping. The Ghoul Saw is an extremely fun melee weapon that I highly recommend you try if you just want to chain enemies down. The best way I can describe the way the weapon feels is actually more like a flamethrower, at least when you're using something like Influence. You could go for a hybrid setup on this thing, but I like building it for status. Is this weapon the best in the game? No, but if you want to have some fun and use a melee weapon that doesn't feel like any other in the game right now, please give this weapon a try. I really hope we get another weapon of this particular class soon. Okay, the next weapon on the list is a bit of a weird one compared to the rest because I like using this mainly for crowd control and utility as opposed to damage. The Quantum Vandal at base is just a decent beam weapon. It has an alt fire that shoots out cubes. Once these cubes either reach 8 seconds of travel time, or if they impact an enemy, they will explode, dealing blast. But you can shoot the cubes with the beam to make them do a bigger explosion. The weapon deals decent single target damage. It does like punch through, but when you detonate those cubes, it does pretty decent AoE overall and can provide both priming and solid AoE clear. On its own, this weapon isn't mind-blowing, and combining it with something like Nourish for viral, then maybe building it for corrosive and blast, and throwing on a grouping tool. You can see why I'm putting the Quantum Vandal and the Ghoul Saw at the back of the list, because I think these weapons are more fun when combined with other things in the game. The Quantum Vandal is just a really cool utility beam weapon, and I think the alt fire is a lot of fun, more than capable at doing base still path, and it's one of the most unique weapons in the game. You can build it for something like viral and heat, but the build I like using on it is for more utility and CC, like I mentioned, by using Shivering Contagion and then popping on cold damage, then using Arcane Frostbite, going for a winter themed setup that's instantly going to freeze rooms. It's kind of the equivalent of having a primary weapon version of the Verglass that you'd normally put on your Sentinel with Shivering Contagion. So if you like the Verglass and the way it functions on your Sentinel, here you have it as a primary, except it has a very explosive alt fire, and then you can use a different pet such as a Kubro. Just a cool little fun weapon I like using from time to time. At the number 8 spot, we have a more recent weapon. It came with Saito 9, and that is the Recon Effects. It's a fully automatic assault rifle. Kind of feels a bit more like an LMG, to be honest. Also, this thing looks incredible, one of my favorite design weapons in the game. At first it may just seem like a fully automatic AR, but it has a particular passive where once you reload, you'll have a little bar inside of your reload meter, and if you press reload, once you go past that bar, you'll infuse your next magazine with heat damage. This lasts for the entire mag of 200 rounds, mind you. Building this thing for viral and then having that heat passive on top of it, throwing on something like Deadhead and building it for crit, this can mow down enemies extremely easily. It's not going to break any new ground and be like a complete god killer of a weapon, but it does chew through enemies pretty easy, and it has an incredible sound. This is a really fun assault rifle with a nice little gimmick that doesn't take a lot of focus to trigger, and it's got more than enough damage to boot and go at high levels. There's really not much to say about it. I just like the weapon. I think it looks cool, it sounds cool, the passive is epic, and it's satisfying to use, and you definitely want to try it. At the number 7 spot, we have our first Incarna weapon on the list. Don't worry, there's only one more Incarna weapon after this one, and I believe the Atmos with its Incarna form is one of the most underrated in the category. It's a chaining beam weapon, and then the alt fire with the Incarnate form turns it into kind of a pocket rocket launcher. I understand that pretty much every Incarnate weapon is going to be considered at least decent because that's what they are, but it's so easy to overlook something like the Atmos. With the chaining fire damage, all of the bonuses you can get from the Incarnate evolutions, it also works well with a decent amount of arcanes. What you're looking at is kind of like a subversion of the Kuva Nucor. In some ways it may even outclass it. Interestingly enough, I think the primary fire is better than the Incarnate alt fire, but having the Incarnate form means that you don't have to run any ammo mod, because if you're ever running out of ammo you can just switch to it. And I think I find myself using the Atmos Incarnate more so than the Kuva Nucor right now, even though the Kuva Nucor might outdamage it a little bit. It's an incredible AoE clear weapon and you definitely got to try it. At the number 6 spot, we have the Prisma Oma. You could also include the regular Oma, they're not too much different. It's a tonfa weapon that looks like absolute shit. You really want to use a skin on this weapon. Quad stick tompas that have base electricity damage, solid crit and very high status. They don't have any special gimmick, they're just really strong. That's literally it about this weapon. And we have plenty of good tonfas, but this one is not talked about nearly enough. I admittedly am using mine with a Riven, but you can easily forgo this. Personally, I'd recommend building it for influence and blast damage. The multi-hits on the tonfa combos, combined with the high status chance, is going to allow you to proc a shit ton of blast, so easily clear rooms, and you have the convenience of the base electricity. Even though I don't use this weapon too often because I think it's ugly as fuck, and it does lack a little bit of uniqueness, this is actually one of my most reliable melee weapons if I want to clear hordes. And considering how many amazing weapons I have to choose from, the Prisma Oma never fails to surprise me with its overall DPS. So if you want a corpus themed tonfa, try this weapon out. It's seriously slept on. At the number 5 spot, we have a weapon that's very dear to my heart. To me, this was the original version of the dual Toxicist, a weapon that I used to use and always felt it was really slept on, very powerful, behaves very similar to the dual Toxicist, and that's the Nell Prime, or even the regular Nell if you don't have the Prime yet. Honestly, this weapon, even though it's a number 5, is competing with every other weapon in the list for the number 1 spot. In terms of just how underrated it is, the Nell Prime has a very unique passive. On headshots, you gain 100% ammo efficiency, as well as stacking crit and status, basically allowing you to permanently hold down this trigger as long as you're headshotting enemies, which is super easy, mind you. So you can shoot this thing forever, and the damage it puts out is exceptional. Just constantly aim for the heads. It's got a little sniper scope, incredible crit, status, damage, you name it. Build this thing for fire rate, you can hold it down forever. That's what makes it so powerful. If an enemy is giving you a tough time, which is unlikely considering its base stat, you could just hold down the trigger until the thing is dead. This was like my go-to weapon before the dual Toxicist Incarnate, and I still use it today. It isn't just good on Harrow, this is good with absolutely anyone. In my opinion, the most underrated secondary weapon in the game. It absolutely fucking rips. At the number 4 spot, we have our second and last Incarnate weapon on the list, and that's the Cybear Incarnate. I always thought the Cybear was super cool looking. It's basically just a big icicle lollipop on a stick. And I think with this Incarnate, it's very good. Loads of range, solid crit and status with all those evolutions. I like building this thing for blast, much like the Prisma Oma, and you can easily clear rooms when you combine it with influence, rocking a shit ton of blast, but also, because of the Incarnate, it has this unique passive, which also ties into the weapon's base passive, mind you. It's easy to forget, but the Cybear's base passive gives you a temporary bonus of 50% to your status chance when you heavy attack, and then the Incarnate form buffs your slam attacks by leaving a cold AoE. I'm gonna be honest, I barely use the cold AoE from the Incarnate because most things are gonna die from your regular heavy attacks, but this thing is incredibly good when it comes to heavy attack slams, which recently got nerfed. I have no idea what this little cold AoE does. I can't tell whether it does damage because most of the time if you're heavy attacking the ground, everything's gonna die anyway. To me, it's just aesthetically pleasing, and this is a really strong hammer. I do have a Riven on this weapon as well. You don't need it. Any balanced build will do. It's basically just a giant lollipop with a shit ton of range and really easy to build for blast. Performs extremely well for a hammer, and I highly recommend you try it. At the number 3 spot, we have a personal favourite Kuva weapon of mine, and that is the Kuva Hind. The Hind is a unique assault rifle in the fact that it has a select fire feature. If you alt fire, you'll change from either your base burst of a 5-round burst, or you can go to a single fire and then a fully automatic. To be honest, all three of the modes are actually pretty good. It's a little bit difficult to tell which one's the best in terms of its DPS, but if I could guess, it's probably just the base damage burst. But the single fire and the full auto both have their places, and it offers 3 different playstyles for someone who may enjoy a particular fire mode. The primary thing this weapon needs, in my opinion, is the correct arcane and a good bit of punch through. Without punch through, this weapon is a bit of a single target machine. I like using the burst fire, and with a bit of punch through with prime shred, for example, go for a good build of crit, status and fire rate. This is a really satisfying assault rifle, and you have the advantage of it having a progenitor element, so it's easy to mod for. The Hind is badass. I think its fire modes and its sound design are incredible. For a non-incarnate weapon, it may be one of the best, if not the best, assault rifle in the game. At the number 2 spot, we have the Exegeus, and I'm going to be honest, it's a complete toss-up between the number 1 and 2 weapon as to which one's better. I think they're very similar, and dare I say, way better than all the other weapons on the list. The Exegeus is incredible. It wasn't amazing for a while, it's always been good, but this weapon got way better with the introduction of primary crux because it really likes the ammo efficiency. It's a high status, very high punch through, single shot shotgun where you shoot once and then reload, but if you throw a bit of magazine capacity on this weapon and then use primary crux, you can rapid fire this thing a bit more before having to reload. Punch through and status from primary crux and just its overall base damage is an incredible combination. This thing completely blitzes through enemies. It's very similar to the Arcoplasmor, but in some ways I'd say a bit better. That's the best way to describe this weapon. It's the Arcoplasmor's little brother, and from my experience isn't talked about enough. I'm sure that's mainly due to the fact that primary crux only recently came out, so it's kind of carrying the weapon's best traits. The weapon's still good with that crux, mind you. Still worth a try, but being able to spam that trigger multiple times with that ammo efficiency, it just changes the way this weapon plays, and it's so much better now. To me, this is like if the Tigris Prime aged well. And now for the number 1 spot, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I actually like a sniper rifle in Warframe. The Perigale is the most underrated weapon in the game. I never see anyone using it. I don't think enough people talk about it. Hell, I wasn't even talking about it until recently because I think sniper rifles are fucking boring in this game, but this one is so different. At base, it's a 4-round burst sniper rifle, and with the passive, if you land 4 out of 4 headshots, you gain 100% ammo efficiency. With its low base ammo, this is perfect. It means you don't have to mod for any of it. This thing has outstanding base stats, huge crit, damage, works for status. I like using primary deadhead, no shit. And because of the 4-round burst, I like building it for fire rate, and fire rate just feels good in this game in general. But with that fire rate, you could build this like most of the weapons and go for multi-shot, but I started trying it with primary acuity and making sure I've got enough punch through on the weapon, and holy shit, the red crits, the damage numbers, you can just wipe through so many enemies with one burst, and it's ammo efficient at the same time. Has basically no recoil. It doesn't feel like a sniper rifle to me, which I like. It's like a more destructive version of the Nell, but in primary form. If you're someone who doesn't like sniping in Warframe, and you want to get into a sniper rifle, I'd recommend you try the Perigale. 4-round burst sniper rifle, super rapid, insane passive, and very satisfying damage numbers. This weapon kicks fucking ass, dude. Dare I say it rivals a bunch of the incarnate weapons based on pure DPS. This thing can outkill the incarnate Atmos that we talked about earlier. Such a good weapon. And that concludes my personal top 10 most underrated weapons in the game. Let me know what weapons you guys consider to be the most underrated and you think I should give a try that I didn't mention in this video. And please, for the love of God, get your hands on the Perigale and the Exegeus. I appreciate you all for watching. Feel free to like and sub if you've enjoyed. If not, then no worries. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.